This is the third and last video on electricity, and to be frank, it is probably one of the least important one, because most of the things that's mentioned here will not be tested. However, it is still a useful video because the things that I'm going to mention will still be tested in P6 in PSLE, and if you manage to understand the slides ahead, it will help you better understand electricity as a topic. Okay, so first let's look at the different kind of energy sources, meaning how do we get electricity in Singapore. Most of our energy comes from fossil fuels, more than 90%. Two main reasons: firstly, because it's cheap; secondly, because we are a very small country, so we don't have space for places like windmill or big dam to generate electricity. Okay. The rest of our energy mostly comes from the remaining 10%, less than 10% actually, mainly comes from burning our waste as well as solar energy. Solar energy is energy from light, so it's quite common nowadays. You can sometimes see it even in the parks. Okay, if you notice, sometimes above the lamppost on the park there's a small rectangular frame that looks something like this. Okay, it is the solar panel. It basically traps light to generate electricity and light up the light bulb at night. Okay, as for waste, what Singapore do is we actually burn our waste, so the size of the waste will reduce, so there will be lesser waste after burning, and at the same time when we burn the waste we also generate electricity, and then now after that the waste will be dumped into landfills, like for example Pulau Semakau lah. If you have a chance, I would suggest you go and read up on Pulau Semakau. It's a very special island. Since most of our electricity come from power plant that burns fossil fuels and turn them into electricity, I'm going to tell you how Singapore or how the power plants generate electricity. So it doesn't always have to be coal, it can be natural gas. For Singapore, most of our power plant uses natural gas lah. Anyway, inside the power plant there will be water. Okay, so what the fossil fuels, what the natural gas do is they will heat up the water, and then if you heat up the water enough, they'll turn into water vapor or even steam. Steam is basically water vapor at 100 degrees Celsius. So because hot air rises, right? So basically all this hot water vapor, they will start rising and then they will start rushing. They'll rush, and then you lead them to a turbine. Okay, so you can just think of a turbine as something like a windmill. Basically, when there's a lot of hot water vapor rushing through, okay, you just imagine when you open up a hot pot of boiling water, a lot of hot water vapor rushes out, right? So it's the same thing. So it will push this turbine, which is something like a windmill, you start turning. Okay, so when it turns, the generator that's beside it will also turn together with it because they are tied together. So what the generator do is it just basically produce electricity. Okay, so after that, this electricity, once they are produced, it is sent to our home. Okay, in case you wonder, so after that, this water vapor, they will condense and then they will become water again, and then it gets sent back again, and then it gets boiled again. Okay, so the water can be recycled. However, the energy needed to heat up the water cannot lah. So that's why you constantly need to use new natural gas. That means we have to buy all these natural gas from other countries that have them, because Singapore, we don't have our own natural gas. Okay, so to summarize, the water is heated and become hot water vapor, steam, and then it rise and move, which pushes the turbine, and when the turbine turns, the generator turns along with it. And the generator, when it turns, it will generate electricity for us to use. Okay. Now, actually, in certain part of other countries, they also have a windmill or hydroelectric plant. So it works the same way, just that they don't use fossil fuels. The windmill uses wind, the hydroelectric plant uses water lah. So for windmill, basically it's the same thing. When the wind comes, it will turn. Okay, it will turn. So when it turns, the generator turns along with it and then produces electricity. Okay, as for hydroelectric plant, right? Okay, usually it has a very huge dam. Dam you can think of them as something like a wall that blocks the water, but there's a hole there lah. So water, when it rushes through, okay, you push this turbine. The turbine will turn and generator will turn along with it to generate electricity. So actually it pretty much works the same as a power plant lah. Just that for power plant, the source of energy is your fossil fuels. Okay, of course, there are also other kind of popular energy source like the solar energy that I talked to you about. Okay, as well as nuclear energy. Every house has a circuit breaker. So why is it so important? Why is it that every house must have it? Is because circuit breaker acts as a safety mechanism. For those of you who still don't know what's a circuit breaker, this is how it looks like lah. Okay, so if the circuit breaker is switched off, no electricity can enter your house. Okay, now so what we always like to do is usually we like to plug a lot of plugs into the socket. So what happens is it will draw a lot of electricity. So when there's a lot of electricity coming out, the wire may become too hot, and then there may be sparks, there may be fire, and then if it's near fabrics like curtain, you burn your house down. So a circuit breaker, when it detects that there's a lot of electricity entering your house, what you do is you switch itself off. When it switches itself off, no electricity can enter your house. Okay, so when no electricity enter your house, all the power supply is cut off. So your lights, your TV, your fridge, everything will be down. So you realize that someone in your house will go and switch on the circuit breaker again. Okay, but of course sometimes you realize that even if you don't do this, when there's a thunderstorm, or you realize that there are also a blackout in the house when the circuit breaker switch off. That's because the lightning strikes your building, and then there's a surge in electricity entering all the household in the block, in your block lah. So the circuit breaker will also switch itself off. Okay, now this slide, the next slide, is the more important one. This is a common sense slide. You should know, but again, I'll still go through because it is tested in exam. Okay, sometimes they do ask you how to use electricity safely. Okay, as mentioned earlier, do not connect many appliances to one socket because this will cause the wire to become too hot and then fire can start. Okay, make sure wire is not exposed. So previously I already told you that wire is actually being wrapped by a layer of insulator, usually rubber. Okay, sometimes because it's already, or because you accidentally tear it, the wire may be exposed. If you use these kind of appliances, right, people who accidentally touch it can get electrocuted. Okay, don't touch the switch with wet hands because all the impure waters on your hands when you touch electricity can contact electricity. Okay, and then you can also get electrocuted. Okay, don't repair electrical appliances yourself lah. This one you should know. Okay, turn off appliances when not in use. Sometimes during exam, they will also ask you how you can save electricity. Switch appliances off if it's not in use. Okay, use fan instead of air conditioner. In case you don't know, aircon can use up to 20 to 30 times the electricity used by a fan. Use electricity saving appliances. In Singapore, it's very easy to identify them lah. Usually they'll come with a sticker with 4 to 5 ticks. So those are the kind of electrical appliances that uses very little electricity. Okay, do not keep the fridge door open for too long because the air condition in the fridge will just keep creating more and more cold air, which uses a lot of electricity.